All right, this time I'm gonna cook what I cook when I'm in a rush with my family. This is probably 70% of our meals. Occasionally we'll add a starch, much more now that we have a 2-year-old. But I'm going to cook Maui Nui leg medallions, which is a cut I love. Kind of reminds me almost of a filet mignon, but even leaner. So you really want to sear it and then let it go, because you can overcook these fast and they get tough. But they're delicious if you cook them correctly. So we're gonna do Maui Nui leg medallions. We're gonna do some asparagus, and we're gonna do some cremini mushrooms. Cremini mushrooms are already cut by Trader Joe's. The asparagus we're going to cut because my daughter prefers asparagus cut up into pieces. Like I said, she's almost 2. Cut off the ends of it. Give it a quick rinse. Okay, now I'm gonna cut this with a knife, but just so you know, 90% of the time, just for ease, this is how I cut asparagus. But I like to scare at them, so we're still using the knife.
Thanks for that.
That's it. That's the prep of the asparagus. Let's get these bad boys ready. So this is like a way I started eating years ago when I was trying to cut fat when I worked in the governor's office, and my body fat got a little too high for my liking. It is low carb, obviously, lots of veggies, but very little carbohydrates. So if I was trying to put on weight, I am going to definitely add rice or pasta or bread. I'm gonna add some type of carb to this, but because, full disclosure, since you can tell, and I'm wearing the same clothes, we've been cooking and eating meals all day. I'm not really worried about adding carbs to this dish. All right, so most of the time what I'll do is a little salt, a little pepper, some garlic powder, and then some rosemary when I'm cooking these, because I like to prepare them a little like I would lamb, and I go heavy on the rosemary with lamb. Trader Joe's had this garlic, sea salt, parsley, red pepper spice, so we're gonna try this out with a little bit of rosemary because that's missing. We're not gonna add any salt because this already has salt. We're just gonna liberally hit it with this. We don't know how this will end up because we've never had it, but it looks pretty tasty, I gotta say. We're gonna flip it. Hit the other side. Ooh, smells spicy. That red pepper is really pretty strong. Okay, now we're gonna hit the rosemary. You don't need much rosemary, a little bit goes a long way. Our old house actually had a rosemary bush in back, so we use fresh rosemary a lot. It's also really hard to shake out of these shakers. I don't know why they make them that way, but they do, so it is what it is.
We should start naming this series Catch Cooks, but Cooks with a K.
I like that. Sounds like something that would have been on like VH1.
Right, you can't call it Catcher's Cooking Kitchen because too many K's there.
That's nope. Definitely no. Hard no. Again, measuring our olive oil. This time, we're gonna listen to Adam, and we are going to do 1 tablespoon. You can see smoke already coming. Sorry, someone's picking up something at our door. Daisy, come here, girl. Woo, woo. You can see smoke coming off the cast iron skillet. I love cast iron. Oh yeah. It's hot. Okay. Okay, so now we have to sear, which in order to sear something, you don't want to move it. So you want to build up, I think it's called the Maillard effect, which is the crust that you get from searing, but that requires constant contact, not moving around. I probably mispronounced that too.
I'm more like the only dance with the leg up.
Sorry, I'm stretching out because I also filmed a ton of squats and deadlifts today. Was it aggressive?
It was a good inner thigh. We're so clean.
Listen, I train these legs for a reason. So this is actually like a pretty easy meal to cook because you can do everything in one cast iron skillet, which I love to do because most of the time I'm cooking for me, my wife, and my daughter, and I'm going to cook and then I'm going to end up cleaning probably too because my wife will be cleaning up my daughter's area. So this isolates the number of things I have to clean down to one pan, one cutting board, one knife, and the plate I use for prep. Again, and this is something where I think we want to say this over and over again. A lot of people have this aversion or fear of cooking, and it doesn't have to be anything complicated. Like, this is literally just a protein, a vegetable, and mushrooms. It's all going to go in one pan, all on the same heat, nothing to really think about, and it's going to end up being delicious. So don't be afraid. Just put yourself out there and try to cook something. Cook for yourself if you're worried about freaking out. I learned to cook almost entirely by cooking for myself when I started working in the governor's office. And then a year later I had roommates and we all cooked for each other or cooked for ourselves. People, I've noticed more and more, especially guys, are afraid of the idea of cooking because they're going to screw up, but you're going to be the only one who knows 90% of the time. And it's probably not going to be something you screw up so badly that it's inedible. Unless it has to do with baking, which I don't understand at all, so don't ask me about baking, I can't bake.
True or false, your wife maybe married you because of your cooking skills?
I cooked my wife lamb chops on our second date. 100% true.
I mean, you are the cook of the house.
I am the cook of the house.
I'm the cook of my house too, and I like to think my wife maybe wouldn't have married me if it wasn't for the fact that I could cook.
I think it's 100% true.
Yeah.
And so for the young single guys, learning to cook will help you. I think, I guess my wife will see this, but I think literally anyone I made it to a second or third date with, I cooked a meal for. And it was a good move every time.
The Daniel Ketcher maneuver. Cook him a meal.
It also shows, because I have friends who literally probably can't cook an egg. It shows a level of independence that some people don't have. And there's something great about being independent. All right, we're gonna flip these now. Look at that. Look at that crust. That's what we're going for. See that? So see how it's really red on the inside. We're gonna we're not timing this, and you probably noticed I've used the timer like once in all of our cooking videos. I don't time things. We're kind of gonna watch this as the red slowly gets to the middle, and then we're gonna pull them before they're overcooked. I know that's not scientific, and some people want cook this in 2 minutes and 30 seconds per side. It's just not my style, and I recommend just trial and error the same way we recommend trial and error with the weights you use when you're squatting for the first time or benching for the first time.
Do you think you don't use timers because of trial and error, or do you think it's because, as we've already seen, your Alexa doesn't even listen to you?
My Alexa does ignore me. That could be part of it. I haven't figured out Siri yet, to be honest. So that could be part of it.
No respect. But look at that. You adapted. Resilience.
But I've also cooked enough things that I just kind of have a feel for it. And these, by the way, I've cooked these before, extremely rare, and they're still delicious.
They're so good,
So,
I can't lie.
If you don't like rare meat, or in my case, my wife is pregnant, and I have a 22-month-old, then you're going to want to leave it on a little longer. You can't, pregnant women are not supposed to eat rare meat. So we've had to adjust, but both of us like rare meat typically. So typically I'll leave one on for Katie and one on for the baby a little longer than mine. But still, I'm trying to avoid getting to the point where they're overcooked. This is going to be, my prediction, this is going to be about a 20-minute meal.
Do you want to know what you're at right now, or do you want to do it blind? No, I'm not going to tell you, because if I tell you, you could try and adjust in your head. I know you're good at the head math.
No, yeah, I don't tell me because I'll pull it too early.
Right. So Daniel has predicted a 20-minute meal. You can see right now, because you're watching this, how far along we are. I can see too. I'm curious to see how this all wraps up. Tell me, I know what you're doing, but tell me why you're pressing in to the top of the crust.
So I'm seeing how much give there is, and it's a little bit of cheating because on this one you can see we're really rare on this one. These two, actually all three of these are a little harder to see. So I'm seeing how much give there is, and
it's a great tip.
As a general rule, this would be rare, and then this is medium rare, this is medium, this is medium well, and this is well done.
So all he's doing is adjusting which
finger
he's pressing against.
Your pinky is going to be well done. Nothing is going to be close to the texture of rare. This is medium rare. That's kind of what we're going for. And you can see we're getting there on this one because this one is a little less thick. That is one thing you have to watch when you're cooking game meats. Is unlike a steak, everything isn't going to be the exact same thickness. So I'm relatively certain this one is done. I'm going to pull it. We're not going to cut it, by the way.
Oh, I wanted to see if it was.
No.
You don't want to reveal one for your fans?
I will reveal it as soon as we're finished.
So what texture, what heat, what degree of preparedness do you believe this is?
I'm going to guess it's actually, by the time it settles, I think that one's going to be, I think it's going to be closer to medium. I think that'll be okay for Katie and Madison.
And explain that concept that some people don't realize, because sometimes we just think about cooking as cooking, but as this sits here, the meat is still cooking.
The meat continues to cook, and the juices from the meat. So when you put the meat on here like this, it shocks the outside of the meat. Same way we shock the muscle, to be honest. And I'm gonna hope one of these is pretty rare and one is medium rare because they're all different thickness. So you've shocked, the hot temperatures have sent the juices of the meat into the center. So when you pull a steak or any cut of meat really, you want to let it sit for a few minutes because that lets the juices come back out. But you also have to know it's continuing to cook. I used to use a meat thermometer much more frequently, and you can see the temperature rise 5 to 10 degrees when you come off the cooking onto the cutting board. So it's allowing it to cook, but it continue to cook, but it's also letting the juices kind of retransition back. So as you can see, this is pretty simple. We're literally just cooking this asparagus in exactly the same pan. We're not even adding oil, so we're pretty low fat on this. I'm gonna throw some of this Trader Joe's stuff in. And because you can see a couple of these asparagus pieces are like redwood trees. Normally, if I have skinny asparagus, I'll cook asparagus and mushrooms together. These things are huge, so I'm giving them about a minute head start. I'm not timing it, just a general head start on the mushrooms, and then we'll put everything in here. So, funny thing about kids is, one thing you learn if you have kids, and I'm actually going to add a tablespoon of olive oil because otherwise the things are going to be really dry. So that's 2 tablespoons total for this whole meal. It's not a big deal. Split between 3-4 people. I'm not worried about that. It's 220 calories or so. But one thing you learn about kids is they'll eat almost anything. And like we spent the first part of Madison's solid food experience kind of tailoring things to her. But now she eats whatever we eat every night. I'm throwing some more of that Trader Joe's seasoning for the mushrooms. And the funniest thing for us has been 2 of her favorite vegetables, or I guess one's a vegetable, one's a fungus, have become our favorites, asparagus and mushrooms. And she would eat almost this whole pan of asparagus.
Talking about trial and error and just going for it, Ketchell's never tried this seasoning before.
Yeah, I don't know what it tastes like.
He just dumped it all over the veggies and the meat, and you know what? This is how you learn.
And by the way, since it does have red pepper, one hack if you have kids and you want to cook with spice, so I have to cool down her food anyway. So if I use something that's really spicy, which smells like it might be, I'll take hers separately and put it in a strainer and run cold water over it and get some of the spice out of there. That always works if I make something really spicy. Most of the time she's fine to eat whatever we're eating. And we're done there. I mean, I don't know how long that was, but I would guess that was about 3 minutes on for these. We're gonna take them off. Oops. With asparagus, I'll show you, but I kind of like to cook not to a soggy level, so I prefer undercooking and testing to overcooking and ending up with asparagus that's completely soggy. So I'll test one of these once they cool down and the pan's still hot, so I can always throw them back in, but they look pretty cooked to me. You can watch asparagus, the color changes a little bit. And we obviously got that great like blackening from the cast iron, which is maybe unhealthy, but it's delicious, so we don't really worry about that. Okay, let's see. That redwood one has to go back in.
In related news, Daniel has an appointment with the dentist tomorrow because he just lost a tooth.
Everything else is perfect.
Or
Yeah.
if it was me, I would just say screw it and I'd throw out the redwoods.
All right. I may end up doing that, but I'll leave them in the pan for a little
No
bit.
food left behind.
The theme of these videos is me injuring myself. Okay, let's cut one of these. Okay, so I'm gonna cut.
This was the one that you predicted.
Was medium.
That looks amazing.
It's a little pink,
Little pink.
not red. I would say I predicted correctly. Don't you think?
I would say that for a game meat, that looks medium to me.
I'm pretty proud.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chef Catch.
Okay, so that one's gonna be safe for the wife and baby. Let's see if I got a little bloody one for me, and then we can kill this video. Oh yeah. So this one will be mine. This is rare.
It's beautiful. You know, it's not beautiful. Still watching you cut with your fingers.
Actually, is that medium rare? It's probably in between. So the middle pieces that are the thickest seem pretty rare, but we're getting into some pink on the outside here. Okay, so guys, that's delicious. How long?
For the record, 22 minutes, 35 seconds.
That was close.
If you were a little quicker with your plating, when you were plating the vegetables, it was counting down to 20 minutes, and I didn't want to interrupt and throw it off. And I was like, man, if you could have just loaded up the vegetables a
sliding
little
off that
bit
damn
quicker.
spatula.
That was some of the slowest
Rookie move.
vegetable removal
Should've
I've
used a
ever
spoon.
seen. Yeah, who uses a spatula to plate vegetables?
Listen, it's going to be delicious. So yeah, by the way, people have asked us about serving size, Adam. So
Look at that. A palm is a portion.
that is one portion of protein. So that works perfectly. And then we're not counting our vegetables. We're eating as much as we can. And my wife and daughter are home, so we're closing this up and we are eating.